Merci beaucoup Nicolas, merci à vous d'être effectivement si matinaux. C'est un plaisir d'être au Forum d'Avignon dont Vivendi est un partenaire fondateur. C'est un honneur qui m'est fait effectivement de participer et d'animer cette session inaugurale. C'est aussi un défi par rapport à vous qui êtes dans l'audience, par rapport à nos invités qui vont nous rejoindre dans quelques instants. Le thème qui est choisi, investir la culture, est un véritable défi. Quels sont les liens entre la culture et l'économie, qui est en quelque sorte le fil conducteur aussi de notre forum, et d'une certaine façon, dans un parcours, dans une analyse bien française, je poserai peut-être un peu à tous nos interlocuteurs la même question. Sommes-nous au cœur d'un oxymore? Peut-on vraiment investir la culture? Peut-on vraiment investir dans la culture? Est-ce que la culture fait partie de l'économie, ou est-ce que l'économie fait partie de la culture? Ce qui est sûr, c'est que nous investissons dans des produits culturels, dans des services d'éducation, dans la production de contenu, dans leur promotion, dans leur diffusion, dans leur distribution. Le groupe que j'anime est évidemment au cœur de ces investissements. Il est aussi au cœur d'un sujet qui n'a pas encore trouvé une solution satisfaisante, celui de la protection des droits d'auteur, celui des arbitrages qui sont à faire entre les souhaits de certains consommateurs, en tout cas, et la protection des investisseurs, que sont aussi les artistes, les auteurs, les compositeurs. Vivant assez fréquemment sous la tyrannie, comme on dit aujourd'hui, des marchés financiers, je m'interroge aussi sur le rôle de la liberté dans l'entreprise, et le fait d'être présent dans les industries culturelles est peut-être un atout par rapport à cette tyrannie, par rapport à cette dictature des marchés qui, quelquefois, met même en cause certaines de nos libertés, peut-être, quand on pense ces événements récents où, sous la pression des marchés, des gouvernements ont dû s'effacer, alors qu'ils étaient démocratiquement élus, devant la pression des marchés, et être remplacés, au moins en partie, par des personnes, certes très estimables, mais qui ne sont pas élues, et de cette façon-là, à travers aussi la pression qu'il y a sur l'entreprise, on peut dire que la liberté qu'apporte la culture, qu'apporte l'art, l'ensemble des œuvres d'art, est peut-être aussi pour nous une respiration fondamentale. Voilà. Je voudrais maintenant inviter nos trois premiers interlocuteurs, Arjun, Christine, Tishani, à nous rejoindre, si vous voulez bien prendre place. Voilà, s'il vous plaît. Arjun, please, Tishani. Je crois, j'espère que la traduction fonctionne bien. Je crois qu'Arjun et Tishani vont s'exprimer en anglais, Christine comme moi-même en français. On nous dit que la culture nous rend pleinement humains. Vous êtes anthropologue. Aristote disait: le genre humain vit de l'art et du raisonnement. Et c'est en cela que nous distinguons de l'animal, l'art et le raisonnement. Quel est l'apport des anthropologues finalement à cette analyse des sociétés humaines à travers la culture? Je crois que l'année dernière, vous disiez, ici même, la culture traverse tous nos comportements économiques. La culture constitue l'ADN de nos systèmes économiques. pouvez-vous peut-être développer, partager avec nous ce que veut dire pour vous investir dans la culture?
It's working, good. Well, let me begin, first of all, by thanking the organizers, my friends from the Forum d'Avignon, where I'm also privileged to meet them periodically to think about this wonderful event. So I'm grateful to them. If I need to be closer or further, please tell me, because... Closer. Ah, okay. So I remove this for the moment. Secondly, my thanks to you, Mr. Levy, for a very gracious opening note. I'm delighted that, given your major responsibility and mission, you are also joining and indeed guiding this conversation, and it's a great opportunity for those of us who live in the cloistered world of the university to meet people in what we call the real world, although the university can be quite real, I find, but that's another story. But as far as anthropology, two things. One, I begin with observation that we have somewhat ourselves created a problem in our image as people who are only concerned about custom, memory, tradition, history, in a word, the past. And I am active among those anthropologists who say that we should not be complaining about what the economists do. We should also talk about the future, since human beings everywhere also shape the future all the time. They're not only there to enact what went before. So I feel there's a job for anthropology to do which we've not done well. Secondly, I feel that if you take seriously that human beings, when they look ahead, also look ahead in a cultural way, that is, in a way that's specific to some community, some society, some history, then it immediately follows that everything that concerns economics, scarcity, planning, risk, uncertainty, investment, are not abstract behaviors. They're always behaviors here or there, in India or China or France. So for us, immediately it's a cultural question. But the challenge is how to do a good job with that. It's not very easy, I find, to analyze, for example, how somebody in the stock market in Mumbai may look at risk. It's not an easy problem, but it's an important problem. So I conclude with only one observation, that I think on the bigger point that culture, I think, involves means and it involves ends. And I think people like Aristotle were thinking mostly about the ends, reason, art, freedom. I think that's important, very important. But it's also about the means, what we produce, the products, how we circulate them. And so I think our collective challenge, anthropologists and everyone else, is to look at culture as a systematic way of connecting means to ends, both in the economy and more generally.
Ça me paraît effectivement une analyse très, très intéressante et multiculturelle. Clairement, la représentation du futur que nous avons, elle s'inscrit bien sûr aussi dans notre socle culturel. Et en même temps, je crois qu'on voit dans le dialogue, dans la promotion des dispositions de l'homme pour accepter, se rapprocher des cultures ou bien les rejeter, différents types de processus d'appropriation ou de rejet. Quelle est votre analyse? Je crois en particulier que vous avez, et je crois que ça nous rapprocherait également de Tishani, analysé comment des apports externes peuvent se révéler par absorption dans de nouvelles sociétés, dans de nouvelles cultures, se révéler force identitaire pour certaines populations. Et point commun qui vous rapproche, et peut-être un petit peu moins nous, le cricket. Le cricket, sport d'élite britannique, évidemment transporté par l'élite britannique, le colonisateur britannique dans la civilisation indienne, est devenu le sport de l'élite indienne, et si je comprends bien aujourd'hui, sport le plus populaire en Inde, et pas seulement le sport de l'élite. Comment illustrez-vous à travers cet exemple les mécanismes d'emprunt et de réinvention de l'identité par la culture?
Thank you again for raising something on which I won't say that I'm an expert, but I'm interested. All Indians are interested in cricket. Second, perhaps only to Bollywood. Cricket is, and they are connected. But I begin my short answer with a joke that a very distinguished Indian sociologist and social critic, Ashish Nandi, lives in Delhi, wonderful man, brilliant man, said that cricket is an Indian game accidentally discovered by the British. An aphorism that, in a way, one can't do better than that. But what he meant to say is that in cricket, Indians have found a remarkable amount of meanings about competition, about team spirit, about sport, about celebrity, about modernity itself, which for them opens up a much bigger horizon than the original Victorian elite horizon. So the general message, so I think that's the short of how the sport really is now truly Indian, and of course Sri Lankan and Caribbean, but India is what we're talking about now. The thing I'll say, which is a general thing that emerges from that example, is the position that someone like me takes on cultural flows in our world, where you know there's a lot of anxiety in the last 20 years because of the tyranny of the market, that we are all going to become the same. We will all become McDonald's, we will all become. And my feeling is there are empirical reasons, but also logical reasons why, if this thing moves to that place, something is going to change in this thing because of its new situation. This is Claude Lévi-Strauss, grand leader of French anthropology. His lesson was this, that if this is there next to that mic, it's not the same mic. So logically, even when something very powerful moves, it joins another force field. So my argument is heterogenization will always be a bit ahead of homogenization if we look carefully enough. And cricket is an example.
Merci beaucoup. Tishani Doshi, vous êtes évidemment proche d'Arjun par vos racines indiennes, mais on me dit également que le cricket vous passionne. Alors peut-être aussi parce que cela vous rapproche de vos racines britanniques, puisque si j'ai bien compris, votre mère est galloise, votre père est indien, vous avez vécu votre adolescence en Inde, vous avez vécu longtemps aux États-Unis et à Londres avant de revenir en Inde. Quelle est votre analyse sur le cricket qui je crois vous passionne, même si je ne suis pas sûr, contrairement à d'autres sports, qu'il y ait des équipes féminines de cricket, mais vous allez peut-être aussi nous éclairer là-dessus.
Thank you. It's an honor and a delight to be here. I have to say first, I'm a lapsed cricket fan. I used to be a cricket fan, and then I think I watched too much because I had to do this job of writing about it. So I watched maybe 8 to 12 hours a day of cricket for 60 days, and it wiped the love out of me. So no, the reason I'm interested in cricket is because I think, like Arjun said, it's one of the things that really unifies India, and we have very few things that do. And I think that cricket, like the very language of English, is something that we have taken. I'm a writer, I write in English, and people are always questioning the choice of writing in English. But to me, it feels that we have claimed the language of English itself from the English and are using it in a very different way than, say, their novelists and poets do. So the thing the thing, many women actually do play cricket, but they don't get hardly enough attention. And that's the basic problem that I have with cricket, that for a country of over 1 billion people, the only sport that we are known for is cricket. Maybe a little bit of weightlifting, some hockey and archery, but that's it. And I think that that says a lot about the fact that all the money, all the attention, everything goes to cricket. And so all the other sport, which we can play, soccer and this and that, they don't get any attention. And so my slight distaste for cricket began with the Bollywoodification of cricket, if you will, because it became this mix between sport and celebrity, which is a very strong thing, and money and power. And then there's a sort of contamination, I think, that happens in the game. And so I stopped watching.
Mais vous êtes malgré tout, je crois, extrêmement active, puisque vous êtes romancière, vous êtes poète, vous avez également une carrière de danseuse. Je crois que vous avez des capacités extraordinaires et en même temps, vous êtes, à travers votre parcours, peut-être la mieux placée, comme vous le décrivez dans votre livre The Pleasure Seekers. En français, je crois, le plaisir ne saurait attendre. Vous êtes inspiré par votre parcours artistique sous ses multiples formes, mais aussi par l'interdépendance entre les civilisations, ce phénomène de mondialisation, de globalisation qui modifie les liens à l'intérieur de la famille et de la famille humaine. Comment vivez-vous cet enrichissement mutuel, cet investissement ? De la façon dont la rencontre entre les cultures modifie et les civilisations modifie votre approche de votre parcours personnel en tant qu'artiste sous ces différentes formes.
Well, as you mentioned, I'm a person of mixed background. I'm half Welsh and half Indian, and even though I've lived most of my life in India. And I think that culture to me, frankly, has always been a very oppressive word, because especially in the Indian context, there's a sense of what you were saying about tradition and the past, and it is this most sacred thing that you cannot tamper with. And so I think that trying to find a contemporary voice within those cultures is very difficult. And so as an artist, you have to compete with all the wonderful ancients who wrote the best poetry, made the best paintings, built the most perfect temples, and then you think, what can I do? And so the choice has always been to either borrow, copy, and or take from the West, or reproduce something. And so I think for me the biggest thing has been to try and find an originality of voice, and to make that expression without feeling too oppressed by culture, and to sort of be able to be linked to it, to take the wonderful things that it offers, but not to be held in by them, if that makes any sense.
Est-ce qu'en rentrant en Inde après... Je vais attendre la traduction. Est-ce qu'en rentrant en Inde, après quelques années de votre parcours, notamment universitaire aux États-Unis, en Angleterre, juste au moment où l'Inde s'ouvre bien davantage vers le monde, en même temps que son décollage économique, la société indienne, évidemment, s'imprègne bien davantage de la mondialisation et en bénéficie sur bien des plans. Est-ce que ceci modifie votre rapport à vos racines culturelles indiennes auxquelles vous faisiez allusion? Est-ce que vous avez un œil différent rentrant en Inde et au moment où l'Inde décolle sur l'apport de cette culture, où vous nous dites finalement, j'essaye un peu de m'en abstraire. En quoi est-ce lié à votre parcours personnel? En quoi est-ce lié, à votre avis, à l'évolution de votre pays?
Well, I think when you have made a long journey outside your country and you return, you always look differently at it because you are a little bit an outsider, and it's a very interesting position to take. But definitely, I moved back to India in 2001, and it was quite an interesting time for me because I was getting to know the country as an adult. I'd always lived there my whole life and gone away for my sort of, university and everything. And I realized that something had happened while I had gone away, and it was the cable TV and the internet that had happened in the late 90s, and the whole economy had opened up in the mid 90s. And suddenly it was no longer a place that was closed. It was open in every way, economically, but also with the freedom of the internet and with cable TV, and it made us the possibility of globalization very, very strong. But that also then comes with its own difficulties, because there is this sort of mindless embrace of everything that you're exposed to. And I was quite amazed at the rapidity with which Indians were quickly changing their ways. Even the city that I live in, which is Madras, very conservative city, it used to be that nobody went out to eat except on a Sunday night because it was, and they didn't even like to. It was only if there's no food at home or you're traveling. Like, you never went out to enjoy. And suddenly, in 10 years, it became a city where there were restaurants, Japanese, Thai, Lebanese, Mexican, pizza, and you see like very sort of middle class and, conservative Tamil Brahmin families actually going out and enjoying something different. And I thought, this is just one example of food, which I think is quite an emotional subject for Indians, but and maybe also for the French. But this way of how you open yourself up to something, and actually some of it is quite wonderful. But then, like, I look at the TV and our print media and all the sort of mainstream ways of expression, it's quite scary sometimes to see that it has this also lowest common denominator, and that is what's shaping the country. And that is an effect, I think, of this globalization.
Très bien, vous avez également, bien sûr, écrit des recueils de poésie, notamment Countries of the Body, salué par la critique, qui a remporté notamment le prix Forward Prize for Best First Collection, et vous avez très, très aimablement accepté de partager avec nous aujourd'hui quelques-unes de vos poésies, et je crois que nous allons maintenant vous entendre avec un immense plaisir sur vos propres poèmes en anglais. Merci à vous.
I normally stand, so I think I'll just get up here a bit. When I was asked to choose poems on the theme investing in culture, I thought, okay, I can do that. And then I went to my poems, and I realized that I had no poems about investing in culture. I had poems about love and sex and death. I had poems about women and immigrants. I had poems about the power of music. I even had a poem about the beauty of the number 0, which is, I think, one of the great contributions that India made, because it represents everything and nothing. But no poems about investing in culture. And then I thought, all right, what do I think of investing in culture? And I have to say, it's to me a very abstract and slippery subject, but I can only speak as my experience as a poet and a dancer, that for me, any talking about investing in culture starts with investing in the self and trying to plot these maps between the micro and the macro, and this idea of 0 and how the body can relate to a larger universe. So I'm going to read just a few poems, and they're in English. I hope they've been translated, although it's quite difficult to translate poetry. But I'll just read you a few poems. The first one is called Dog in the Valley. Last night I heard a dog in the valley puncturing the hills with a sound from a long time ago. It was the sound of a man and woman falling out of love, the the sound of a century